What does the future hold as AI becomes a pervasive force in our daily lives? In this thought-provoking episode, I engage with renowned futurist Gerd Leonhard to explore the profound implications of our accelerating technological landscape. From the integration of AI assistants into the workforce to the complex ethical challenges shaping our digital age, Gerd offers a visionary perspective on how Kazakhstan and the world at large can navigate these transformative shifts. Will AI deepen human connection or exacerbate social alienation? Are we approaching a future where monopolistic tech behemoths stifle innovation, or can we safeguard creativity and competition? Tune in for an illuminating dialogue that challenges conventional wisdom and reimagines the future of technology, power, and human agency. So, Mr. Leonhard, I'd like to start with the first question. AI agents will become more integrated into daily life and possibly even influencing how we socialize. Where should we draw the line between human-to-human interaction and relationships with AI agents?
I think most AI agents will be about the boring work. So you have an agent to schedule, you have an agent to book the flight, you have an agent to set up a meeting, business, making your photo album, things like that. Commodity work. Yeah. I think anything that has real meaning between people, dating, there are agents for dating, but the process of having meaning excludes a lot of automation with agents because machines will only do the most simple process in this whole relationship. So for business like supply chain or so, there it would be great because you have so many routines. Yeah. I think there are some people who are falling in love with their agents because they're very lonely. But as we know from history and also from films, that is something that will make you more lonely in the end, not less. Right. So it's kind of a bad substitute for real relationships.
So where do we draw the line? Should we even?
I think we should draw the line like we do with gaming. We have online gaming. We have addiction to gaming. We should keep a very good eye on this and maybe have some new rules. Also, of course, we need to figure out what is allowed with the agent and what is not allowed. For example, replacing yourself with an agent when you're at work, so your agent does the work while you stay at home. Those things will, of course, be difficult to realize. So we're only at the beginning. The other thing is that many of the ideas that people have about agents, they're actually very hard to do. Like even language, you talk about different kinds of languages. If you don't speak regular, whatever your language is, a lot of the AI will not really understand you. It will be like 10% mistakes. And that will still continue for quite some time, 2 or 3 years at least.
But then the world is moving in another direction because look at cybersport is an actual real established sport. Right. So then we're sort of like being pulled in different directions in terms of this.
Yeah, I think the danger is that we would get used to not being with humans. That we would substitute, for example, you have a relationship with your computer and you have a robot at home, and those things are science fiction stories, but still, we could get too lazy and stop doing things between. And there should be, I think, some regulation on this and some way of keeping us safe from too much. Like, I often compare with obesity, physical obesity. So when you eat a lot all the time, they get really, you become obese. But there aren't any laws saying that you can't do that. Yeah. But of course, everybody knows you die when you're obese. Right? So when you eat too much information, you eat too much computer, you get digitally obese and you die. Right? So to make laws for that is not so easy. But social laws, social contracts, agreements as to what is okay and what's not okay. Like you wouldn't allow your kids to play on the iPad for 12 hours, Half an hour, yes, but not 12 hours. Yeah.
I know. Well, you have mentioned before that in a few years, professionals will have their own AI agents. What impact do you see this having on the workforce in Kazakhstan, for example, where traditional industries still play a major role? Will it replace jobs?
It will replace jobs if they are total routine, like mining. If you have a human doing the mining, a lot of that can be automated. If you work in a call center, and it's very simple call center work, that can be automated as soon as the machine understands the language completely. So But the good news is that you may have some jobs that have automated tasks, but not the job. So if your job is 30% automated, then you are freed up to do new things. If your job is 100% automated, that is a big problem, right? But I think that is a process to where we also create new jobs. Yeah? However, some people are not ready to take a new job. So that results in temporary unemployment at least. And we have to be prepared to create new jobs with technology.
What range of jobs could we create that are non-automated? So because you mentioned that this is going to help us enhance us at our job because it's going to free us from those mundane tasks. Would you suggest that there's like a whole spectrum of new jobs that could be created, and what could that be?
Yes, well, first of all, we're going to go back to the traditional jobs that are between humans: healthcare, attendance, helping old people, having kids, having families, building a garden, growing vegetables, like all the things that we used to do that we don't have time for. Like the social well-being, the physical well-being and mental well-being, there's many new things that we can do and that require other humans. Yeah? Social work, for example. And we have to just find a way to get paid for that. Yeah? But we don't have enough people doing this work because people are doing other work. So, for example, if you only work for 4 hours a day, maybe you will have time to take care of a community of old people, because that's what you want to do. Or you start writing a book, or you do other things. But generally speaking, it unlocks the potential. Now, if your potential is limited, because you have never learned anything else, or you can't imagine, then that's difficult, right? And we have to help people in that transition. But I think in 20 years, most of us will only work a few hours per day for the same money.
Right. Well, while AI is, great at processing data, as you mentioned, it does lack the ability to feel, sense, or create to reason on a human level. In Kazakhstan, where cultural and creative industries are currently growing, how can we protect the human elements in the arts and media?
I think the thing what we have to understand about technology is it's very good at simulation. So it can simulate to be human. So if I make a video, I can make the video look really good, but it will not feel meaningful. So there's great research on this showing that yes, an AI can write a book, an AI can make a film, and so on, but we don't perceive it as valuable. We don't think it's special because it's somewhat like a routine film or book, right? And when you read a book that's written by an AI, you feel like you wasted your time, So for the creative industries, I see actually very much a boom because these tools will make it easier to do demos and mock-ups and develop ideas. And so I think a truly creative person will always do better with better tools. And then there will be lots of people who are not really creative using the same tools, pretending to be creative. So that really is the real problem. So somebody may say, I don't use the photographer because I can make this fake picture.
Right.
Yeah. But I think that's temporary.
But I think at one point all these imageries and videos are just going to stop resonating with us.
You know what resonates with people is other people. Right? And the narrative usually, whether it's news or writing books or television, is people with other people. Yeah? And it's very hard, I think, to put machines on that and still make it like people. And then it feels like you're in a video game. And some people like video games, so that's going to grow. But I think as long as we are human, we will want other humans.
I think so too. Well, at least I should hope so. AI is largely driven by capitalistic incentives, as you have mentioned. The social media algorithms, they prioritize content that generates the most engagement, and mostly these are negative stories, sensational stories. The cycle perpetuates more harmful content driven by ad revenue. How do we break this pattern and ensure that AI algorithms, for example, prioritize content that benefits society and rather than solely maximizing profit?
Well, this is the general problem, of course, in technology, is that most of the time it's not about human flourishing, it's about creating something that they can make money with, mostly through advertising, but also through fees and premiums and those kind of things, right? So the way to prevent media from not being valuable is to put the humans back, because you can't tell the machine what is meaningful, because meaning is not an algorithm, and trust isn't digital. So this is why we need public TV, also public radio, public newspapers. This is why we need to put the humans back into the loop, not take them out. Right? But the humans could get a lot quicker and faster using the tools. And this is part of the reason why, for example, broadcasters like the BBC or so sometimes get criticized because they haven't used the tools very much. They're very old-fashioned. So I think to put people back, but with better tools, should result in better news. Because algorithms will never really understand why we prioritize things because of a value. They go for the click, and you click when it's action, right? And this is the decision that we make. It's a choice that we make.
So we need to just be more conscious of this. But still, I mean, this is going to get worse with time.
Well, we're going to have laws, and that's already happening, that prevent fake things and disinformation and fake videos of people, just like we have laws for fake money. So if you're famous or well known or a politician, then there will be heavy penalties for making a fake video that's not comedy. For you to pretend to be you. We're going to see that. But otherwise, I think if we want the news to be more human, we have to use more humans. We can't solve that problem with technology, because really what technology wants is to take out the human completely, so that all of the extra cost is taken away and the revenue goes up. This is the Amazon principle, right? You take out the human, you make lots of money, you put the money back, you make more money. So that would not be a good thing for society.
Well, then how do we change the underlying economic paradigm that you mentioned? What practical steps can be taken to move towards a more sustainable and human-centered economic model that aligns with societal well-being rather than purely capitalistic gains?
Well, I think we're getting there automatically by younger people taking over. My generation will not change how that works, because we have learned that it's mostly about prosperity. So if you're between 50 and 70, the baby boomers, you are on that paradigm, and you will probably not make major changes,
Right.
Especially if you're 80 or something. But if you're 50 to 70, and this is a problem in Europe and also other places, to where we have this paradigm being a very simple paradigm. It's about profit and growth, prosperity, ownership, Now the young people are coming in, especially between 20 and 40, and they're saying, I want prosperity, but I also want other people. I want the planet to not go bankrupt. I want purpose. I will not work for a bad company. I will not work for Saudi Aramco, even if they pay me, right? And they want different things from life, right? And they are demanding that companies do this. I think this change will not come from politicians, it will not come from business. It will come from the population saying we want different things. And that is just about to happen. We're just reaching the peak of dissatisfaction, right? And now we have younger people coming into business and into media and into politics, and they will change the game. There will be more women, more minorities. Like in Germany, it's the other way around now. We are very conservative and very right-wing. And now that is changing, I think, in the next few years to flip back to what the younger generation wants.
But I heard the far-right party is actually gaining rise.
This is, of course, you can see that around the world, what is happening when you think of the future as dangerous, and you have a bad view of the future, you vote for somebody who will simply fix it, right? And somebody will promise to fix this, like America, right? But these promises, of course, are not realistic, but, they seem safe. So in all times of hardship, people vote for simple solutions, right? And they vote badly, because the simple solutions never fix.
They vote right wing.
Yeah, will never fix the problem. Yeah. So if the problem is complex, like work or environment or so, you need pretty sophisticated rulers and politicians. You don't need simple-minded, because the solution isn't simple. And so you vote for somebody simple, and Turkey is a great example. Nothing ever gets fixed. It just keeps going. It just keeps going deeper and deeper. So, however, I think what is happening now is we're getting to the peak of all these problems.
Right.
And after the American election, we'll see, we're going to find that there's new things are possible with a new paradigm.
Do you think the paradigm might shift should the Democrats win or the Republicans?
Well, you never know with America because, I lived there 17 years. Anything is possible in America, right? I mean, literally, and you would not expect that from any other country. I think in general, the fear of the future makes it hard to give up the present. So you want to hang on and be safe, And I feel generally in Eastern countries, the fear of the future isn't as big. It's more like we want to make the future.
Right.
That's the great thing about Kazakhstan. I feel like people want to make the future because the present isn't necessarily all just good, like in Germany or Switzerland.
Well, you've been vocal about the need for ethical AI regulation to avoid societal harm. With Kazakhstan considering increasing AI adoption, what regulatory frameworks do you believe would best safeguard citizens while promoting innovation?
Well, that would be very simple things, to keep it very simple. For example, you don't automate weapon systems, I mean, everybody agrees on that, but there are still people doing it. You don't automate hiring, so you don't put the potential employee in front of the AI camera. That would be illegal, right? You don't allow the doctor to not study the patient, but just to switch on and off what the AI says, You don't allow face recognition in the street.
You mean CCTV face recognition on CCTV?
Well, let's put it this way: if you use face recognition to have a standard recognition of everybody there, like is happening in China, this opens the door to many abuses, right? And like the credit scoring system, right? So that is basically taken it to an extreme, where sometimes you can use the information to qualify for a loan or so, but if you make it a standard that you always do it, you end up in a very, very locked up situation. Creates many, many unrest. It's a cultural question, of course, how much of that you want. Generally speaking, I think we should use AI for simple, manageable, routine, like, administrative tasks, and filing and translation and. Translation is a great example. Doesn't hurt anyone if we have translations, even if it's wrong, a little bit. Then you can still deal with it, like video translation. Very soon.
Well, that's helpful.
Yeah. Well, very soon you can watch television, and if you're a minority speaker, you don't have to watch it in one of the two languages. You can watch any language. And that will be a benefit.
AI is transforming not only businesses, but also governance and public policy. As Kazakhstan develops its digital infrastructure, what are the risks of relying too heavily on AI?
Well, of course, there are many risks when you aim too high.
Well, how do you, increase, transparency and accountability? Would that help?
Well, for the time being, you keep the human in the loop, right? You don't take the human out.
You don't,
Right? You don't, because for the time being, taking the human out is risky because we don't know how it works. So, for example, if you work in the justice system and you have a decision to make, you don't use AI to make decisions. You use the AI to give you information to make your decision.
To process the data.
Right? Like if you're a judge or or police, right? Or the military, you don't make decisions based on the software. You use that as one of the points of information. Right? That is the safeguard against relying too much on it. Eventually, AI will become so powerful that we don't know how it works. And then we have to decide, who's liable and who's accountable, like self-driving cars,
Oh, yeah.
It's a great example. In principle, it should work, but in reality, it's hard.
Tesla cabs are going to be introduced soon.
Tesla self-driving cars don't really work. You know, they work a little bit. They work the best if it's only those cars. So if you have an artificial city like Neom, Saudi Arabia, you build a new city, then you can only have self-driving because everyone is self-driving.
Right.
But if you have humans which don't follow the rules, that would not work. So this is one of the challenges. So I think the safest thing is to say, okay, what are the total routine commodity jobs, the what I call the monkey work, you know, the work that we do every day that we can teach the machine, and then the machine can do stuff like set up meetings, do the filing, check out financial reports, do due diligence, translation. You know, there's many things. And this is not about automation, it's mostly about what's called cognification, you know, smart systems.
Yeah. Well, there's been growing concern regarding non-compete clauses that legal activists in the States claim that hyperscalers like Google, Meta, Microsoft, and Amazon are abusing. They argue that this stifles innovation and prevents small companies from growing as hyperscalers. These hyperscalers often then acquire startups with novel technologies. What is your view on the role of non-compete agreements in today's fast-evolving tech landscape?
Well, I mean, we clearly don't have enough accountability and responsibility in the system for this. You know, we have a system that is monopolistic to a very large degree. And we need those companies to be let's say, to be regulated to be more open for collaboration, because naturally, of course, it's a dominant game. So if once you're dominant, you get more dominant. Yeah, right. This is what we have justice departments for, right? So that we can find new rules. And I think, generally speaking, these companies don't really want to do that. This is part of the flywheel. You know, you get more power, it creates a vortex. Yeah, I think we need to have some rules that say if you're a certain size, then different rules apply. Like the European AI Act has very similar conditions. If you use a certain type of AI, then this is good and that is not allowed, and this one is sometimes allowed. You know, so, and we're still very early at this process. But you know, technology creates monopolies, but society does not do very well with many monopolies. You know, we can take a few, but not all, right? So therefore, it's the job of government is to reduce the amount of monopolies so that we can have growth, you know?
Yeah, economies at scale, that's right. The world is waiting for the EU pact on artificial intelligence. Do you think this is going to be the solution?
You know, I think with a lot of artificial intelligence, we don't need rules for the simple stuff. I call that intelligent assistance, you know, smart software. We need, of course, some simple business rules where we don't need the laws. Like, you know, if you're a carpenter, then you can use a hammer. There's no legislation for the hammer, you know. So we don't need legislation for the hammer of AI, for simple AI. We need legislation for the very powerful AI, which can be like a human. And this is what the EU is doing, is to make sure that we have a limit. Everybody can stay under the limit, or if you go over the limit, then you're in the rules. Yeah? And I think on a global level, we need to regulate general intelligence. So the idea of creating a machine that is more capable than all humans.
With the rise of open source data, there are growing concerns about the misuse of information related to pandemic pathogens and nuclear weapons. In your opinion, how should we approach the containment of such sensitive data? Where should we draw the line? Yeah,
this is a big discussion because, for example, I'm opposed to having open source AI beyond a certain level for that reason. Because, you know, if it's open source, I can build it, but somebody else can build a virus, you know, and we have to be able to control that in some way, if it's possible even, I don't know, but we need to have a standard on what is allowed there and what is not allowed, and who has access to which tools. Like if you make a nuclear bomb, you need plutonium, you know, and most people don't have that, so we have less bombs. But if you make an AI, you need a certain amount of code that you can get that's public. You can build something really powerful. Yeah. So there needs to be a rule for those kind of things. And then the enforcement is another problem. Like the European Commission is very good at making rules, but not so good at enforcement. because enforcement is with the partner countries, with the individual countries. I think that will take a lot of fine-tuning to, and most likely what's going to happen is we will have a major breakdown of something based on AI, like air traffic control, like the stock market.
Air traffic control, that's getting dangerous.
Well, it could be something to where that basically shuts down the air traffic for a week, but not all of the flying airplanes. But for example, in a financial system, it's quite clear we're going to have a financial crash around the world based on what AI is doing.
Right.
This is kind of inevitable. And when we have that, then we say, okay, now we need to figure out who's doing what and who's in charge. I always say jokingly, who's mission control for humanity? We need a mission control. Currently, we don't have that. We can't give the mission control to OpenAI. That's just not their job. It's a private company. And now all of these issues, quantum computing, artificial intelligence, virtuality, they become national security issues and global existential issues, AI. Right? And we cannot let private companies be in charge of existential issues. That would be very unwise.
Mustafa Suleyman, the CEO of Microsoft AI, has said that solving energy storage is key to addressing climate change. In your view, what will drive the next big advances in energy storage and consequently the fight against climate change?
We're making big leaps every week on energy storage. So next generation battery technology, that's happening right now, moving to lead batteries and other kinds of batteries. What's called the intergrid, which is a network of connectivity of power, not of data, right? Where we can send the power from Spain to Germany. This is already being trialed. Right? Harvesting energy in different ways to create networks of energy, allowing people to feed back into the grid. All these things are happening. Right? I think this is a very much solvable problem. And of course, the answer will not just be one thing. It will be everything we can do, from solar to geothermal to next generation nuclear, that will solve this problem. But in 10 or 15 years, we will have nuclear fusion, which is pollution free. Then our energy problems will be, I wouldn't say over, but abundant. That is coming. So this is a temporary problem, which is, I believe, in 15 years, we can roll back the climate change issue. Right? We just have to tie over the time and not let it get out of hand until then. And then we can have enough energy to make free water, desalination, food. That's not that far away. So we just have to be smart in the meantime.
So, Kazakhstan is about to embark on its nuclear power plant journey.
It's too late.
Is it too late?
It's too late. You need 10 years to build, right? 10 years to build, you're definitely too late. So it depends how fast you could build, but we're making such dramatic progress with nuclear ability in existing plants, and security issues are no longer as big as they were. But the biggest issue is, of course, the storage of the used materials. That's the biggest issue. In 10 years, we're going to be very close to perfect solutions of renewable energy in every country, plus next generation nuclear fusion. I mean, some people say it's 10 years or 15, but it will not be 20.
So let's say, because we are about to invest, hundreds of millions of dollars into this project, to just one nuclear power plant. If we were to abandon this idea, what should we invest into?
Well, I think what I would invest mostly is, of course, to look for renewable sources, which aren't enough, to supply the energy you need, right? So the answer is probably in some international collaboration to create enough energy together, rather than to create it only in one country. The French people have been, as an opposite example, very early with nuclear. So they would not build new ones, or I think they're building some, but they're already in progress, right? But they have a different policy. And in Germany, you had this problem. We had nuclears and we shut it down, And this is really because now we're realizing what energy means and how powerful the discussion around energy is. And the shift to renewable it takes time in many ways, right? So this is a difficult decision. But if you need 10 years to build the plant, then you're kind of late in the game there.
But what should we do to catch up? If we were to drop this idea, what should we invest into instead?
I would look for solutions like in geothermal, in wind turbines, and you have lots of wind, right?
Yeah.
Right. So there's great technologies there. Solar, of course, that would only work in the summer. Battery storage, very big
probably
thing.
battery storage is where we should start from to store that energy in the first place.
Yeah, battery storage of a sort, and then, of course, it's not just about that. It's also about the use of energy, right? So, for example, having electrifying the fleet of cars, and making hard regulations on making that switch to electric, and it's about all of those things: pollution, waste, energy reduction, efficiency, smart city. When you have all these things, you can say, okay, now we're using 50% energy for the city because we have a smart city, and production of renewables is up 50%. So there's a chance you can make it out the window, to the new window of abundance of energy, which is coming.
You discussed in your book, Technology versus Humanity, human existence is inextricably linked to technological development, and that these technologies are evolving exponentially. If artificial intelligence becomes humanity's primary advisor, how might this influence our path towards peace? Can we expect humanity to be free from global conflicts and tensions in the future?
Technology does not fix cultural, social, political, religious issues. It makes it worse.
It exacerbates it.
Right? So technology is a tool. We use it to solve practical problems. It also creates new problems. Right? The way that we're going to solve this problem is because we are now forced to realize, like Antonio Guterres says from the UN, we are forced to collaborate or the window is closing. And it doesn't matter what technology we have. Because basically when we use AI, we have a super tool, we have a power tool. We can do many good things, we can do many bad things. But if we always end up doing the bad things because they make money, then we end up in a bad place. So in the process of seeing the current conflicts, for example, we're seeing that if we don't collaborate and solve these problems, we will have one after the other, and they all come together. Right? So it's like a chain reaction, right? Forcing us to collaborate. It's like a bad marriage, when you have with your wife or your husband, you're constantly running into conflicts. Eventually, you give up, or you go to therapy. Right? And now we're going to therapy. Yeah. So, and this is why this current point is difficult, because the old system is breaking down, the new system is not here. Right? So we have a few years of confusion. And what we need to do is to figure out, for example, how the stock market will change to support this shift towards people, planet, purpose, not just prosperity. Right? Because right now the stock market is 20 years behind.
In terms of this?
Yeah, the stock market is rewarding bad behavior. Right? So if you make better weapons, you make more money. Yeah.
So you should make more green investment.
We're going to see next generation ESGs, sustainable environmental investing, that actually invest real money into new things, not just into funds that are a little bit green, So it would be much better for us to invest directly, for example, in companies that make huge amount of batteries to solve this problem, or create the integrate and to boost that, right? Rather than to keep the traditional energy too long, to keep it alive too long, right? And to basically lose those resources. Right?
I see. Well, how do you perceive the ongoing tension between the West and the global South? Do you believe that this will eventually resolve, and could we see a shift in decision-making towards the East?
I think the real issue there again is, like, if we don't get the South to come aboard in climate change, we're going to lose. Right? And currently they're not really there. And the East, that's a big question. But generally speaking, if we fix Europe and we fix America and we go net zero, we will not be net zero in the world. We need India, Africa, Indonesia, China, Russia to come along into the same agenda. So to do that, we have to pay them. Right? basically. So if we want India to be modernized with their infrastructure, we have to help them to say, okay, if you don't build more coal plants, we will give you solar technology and we will help you build these things. And we have to do that everywhere so we can have an agenda where we don't reach 4 degrees of warming. If we reach 4 degrees of warming, we're going to have 500 million climate refugees, and they're all coming to Europe. Right? So this is a big connected global project. Yeah? I think that currently people are realizing this is not a solution of one country. Yeah? This is, and it may take something more than the UN to address this. You know, it's unclear because so far the UN has suffered a little bit loss of power. You know, that it needs to regain to solve this problem together. Yeah? The only ticket to the future of humanity is one global conscious, yeah, because we have water, food, energy, spacefaring, everything that goes with that are common issues, right? If we don't solve water, food, energy, disease, we're gone, right? And how are we going to solve those problems in one country? And it doesn't really matter. I mean, and that America is just one of the concerns about this, because in the end, you know, it'd be much better for us to have a global carbon tax than to have 5 degrees of warming. And you know, we're going to an emergency level here, like COVID, right? And it will not matter whether it's socialism or communism or populism. We need a sustainable economic logic that gets us to the other side. Yeah.
Right.
And that's where it comes down. It requires collaboration, and it requires not the ecosystem, which America is very much about the ecosystem. You know, you have your own things. You have a class divider. You have black and white divider. You have all of those things. Now it's about the ecosystem. You know, if I want to be well in America, then I have to pay, you know, the Brazilians to come aboard with the climate. And this is inevitable. I think this is something that we're seeing pretty much, whether it's AI or climate change, same story.
Well, you know, given the demographics, rapid technological advancements, and abundant resources of, let's say, Central Asia and China, do you think that these countries might emerge as the next, perhaps, centers of power and influence?
Well, that is true anyway. I mean, there is no growth in Europe, you know, for population. We're shrinking, right? And you know, statistics show roughly in 2080, 40% of the world will be African. You know, and of course, Asia, China, Indonesia, India. You know, so the center of power is shifting there, and this is also why, if we are smart, then we're going to collaborate to be part of that shift, and also to embrace immigration, which I think every country is difficult to have immigration, but in the end, almost every country prospers with immigration, if done correctly. And that has always been true in America too, but people don't see it that way, you know, not anymore. But I think this is basically what it comes down to, the realization as to what we need to do to prosper together. There is no prospering alone. This mantra doesn't exist. You know, it's all interconnected now.
It's all one planet.
Well, it's much more interconnected than, say, 1950. You know, you had all your own little bubble, and every country had their own. Like, you know, in Europe, we need one army, one cyber law, one development of AI. We need one money, of course. We need, you know, that's what will make us 1 billion citizens strong. That will be the ticket to our success, you know. And we can still have our own culture and language and food, and you know. And I think the same is going to happen here in this region. You know, teaming together, but maintaining different cultures.
But that's, of course, unless Europe stops aging.
The ticket is immigration. So, and I think we're seeing that as once we get culturally used to being more open, yeah, then it's entirely possible. We've got parts of Spain that virtually nobody lives there, yeah, as opposed to Germany, for example. Right? So there is room there, right? And clearly also the climate will drive people north, you know, from out of Northern Africa. And so these things are difficult debates because of the cultural and, you know, crime and all these kind of things that we need to talk about. You know. But in the end, the ticket to all of that stuff is the understanding that if we don't collaborate, we will not be there to discuss any further. Yeah.
But should power and influence centers emerge, how would this shift affect, global cooperation and stability?
Well, we're seeing the rising importance and the effort of the BRICS, to become more valuable, more powerful, to band together. I think, however, would be a very bad idea to say that, we're going to do things entirely different than what we used to do just because it's different. We need to figure out something that works when you team up together for the long run. So if you had a combination of, say, India and Indonesia and other countries, you would need to figure out not the refusal of renewable energy, right, but the opposite. And the same goes about AI. The bad thing about AI and quantum computing and technology is that it fuels an arms race, a power race, because it can be used for power, for military power. And this is why there's no way around a non-proliferation agreement of general intelligence, like nuclear, because we can proliferate smart systems and intelligent cognitive computing, whatever, but we can't proliferate machines that are so powerful that they would prevent their own shutdown for the next 5,000 years. That is not survivable for us. So that is basically the agreement that we would need, just like we have the nuclear agreement, as to what the rules are. You can have a power plant, but you can't have a bomb. People have bombs, but by and large, it's working.
Is quantum computing the future for Kazakhstan?
Clearly, computing power will be a major player. I think Kazakhstan would be one of the countries where I would look to build more computing power to supply the region with, given the geographic location and the emptiness of space, this would be a very good idea. So I would invest very heavily in data centers driven by renewable power. That would make a lot of sense. But you need the network to connect to the internet. So
we need the grid.
Yeah, need the grid. It's a little bit complicated, but a lot of countries are trying to be that, and I think that would be a great ticket to have renewable energy for data centers, that supply services for the AI economy, which are demanding, increasing exponentially.
Well, Mr. Leonhard, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Ian, and it was interesting to talk to you.